Hi, this is John McGraw of John McGraw Photography. Today we're going to talk about the different dial modes on your camera. Most cameras will have the same dial modes. Yours might look a little bit different, but most of them have these same features. First, we're going to talk about the A symbol, or it might have an A and a plus. That's going to be auto. What that's going to do is it's going to automatically look for your exposure, your shutter speed, and your ISO. So it's going to take care of your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO all together for you. What it's going to do is it's going to look at the main photo that you're looking at, or the main scene that you're looking at, and it's going to take the best reading to make a medium level exposure rating for that scene. So this is really helpful when you're first beginning to get into photography, so that you can worry about the composition where you can frame the photo, see what you want in it, and make sure it's in focus, and you don't have to worry about the rest. Once you get used to doing all that, then you'll move into some of these other settings. So the program feature, which is going to be the P, that's going to give you a little bit more flexibility, but it does pick up like auto does, where it's going to read the scene and give you the settings it thinks it needs. But then you're going to be able to adjust the shutter speed and the aperture if you need to give you a little bit more flexibility. The TV mode, that's going to be your shutter priority. So it's going to automatically pick up your aperture for you, and you're going to adjust the shutter speed. So what you're going to use this for is, let's say you're shooting sports and you want to make sure that you have a fast shutter so that your subject's not moving, that it's frozen. Then you might get into like a 1/250 or 250th of a second shutter speed. So you're going to set that, and it's automatically going to set your aperture for you to adjust for that. So that's all you need to worry about, is what shutter speed do I need, and the camera will take care of the rest for you. The AV mode is a lot like the mode we just talked about with shutter speed. So the AV mode is going to do your aperture. So you pick the depth of field that you want, and the camera's going to do the rest. So let's say you want to focus in on somebody's eyes, but you want the rest out of focus, then you could go down to maybe an aperture of 2.8 or 4, and the camera's going to do the rest for you. So this is a really good way to start getting used to some of the features and using some of the depth of field and having more control over your camera by using some of these modes. So the icon that might look like a head or a face is a portrait mode. What that's going to do, shocking, is going to be help you with portraits. So what it's going to do, it's going to work just like the auto setting, but the normal auto setting looks for the whole picture, and it kind of does the settings for that. What this is going to do is look for a subject or a feature that is going to be in the foreground. So like a person, it's going to set the settings for that foreground, and then it's going to give you more depth of field in general, so that the rest is out of focus. So it really highlights that subject that you're shooting, like a person or a bowl of apples or a tree, whatever it happens to be. The B feature, that's going to be used probably down the road when you get a little bit more comfortable with your camera. But what that's going to be is it's the bulb feature. So what it's going to do is it's going to open up your shutter for as long as you're holding down the shutter button. Or if you have a remote, you're pressing that down. So it's keeping it open for however long. You could hold it for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds. So there's a feature called long exposure, where you're exposing a lot of light for a certain period of time to your camera. And you might hold down the shutter or with your remote for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds to let all that light in. So if you see like a photo where you see the car headlights that are streaming by, but you don't see the car, that's a long exposure shot. We use this for a lot of different reasons, and it really can make your photos really vibrant and give it a completely different feel. I'll do a video about long exposure to kind of explain the whole feature, but this bulb feature really just opens up that shutter. You still have to control your ISO and your aperture, but it opens up the shutter for however long you want, giving you a little bit more control when you want to do some long exposures. So manual mode is the M. This is what I use probably 98% of the time. What this does is gives you full control of the camera, so that you as the photographer have every single control that you want of that image. So you're going to control the aperture, you're going to do the shutter speed and the ISO, all three of them. So this will give you the shutter speed, so if you need to stop somebody or stop an object so that it freezes and there's no blur, it gives you that option. Your aperture, what depth of field do you want? Do you want it to be really shallow, so only a little bit's in focus, or do you want the whole thing in focus? And then your ISO, do you want, you use that in conjunction with the other two to kind of figure out what settings you want. And if you're in low light, you might bump up your ISO. I did another video that explains all three of those in detail, so go ahead and check that out for those. The last button you might see is a programmable button. So on Canons it says C1, C2, C3. What this is going to do is allow you to program exactly the settings that you want. It's a good starting point. So let's say I'm shooting a sporting event, and I know that I need to have a really fast shutter because my subject is going to be moving a lot. So I can set that to automatically go to 1/250 or 250th of a second automatically with a certain depth of field or aperture and a certain ISO. So I know, boom, I click it to that C1, I'm ready to go for a sports event. I might need to adjust a little bit, but it gets me in the ballpark that I need. Or I can set it up for landscape or portraits, whatever you do, you can have those different features programmed. On Canon, there's 3 different ones, so you can set up sports, landscape, portraits, whatever you want to do, you have that option. It gives you a great place to start from. I don't use this a lot, but if you are shooting several different events in a day, it might be good to give you, kind of a starting point. Thank you for watching. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. You can also go to johnmcgrawphotography.com to see some of my work. Please leave a comment or question down below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can.